Hey, Herrst, Alter, was ist das?
Do you speak English?
What is this? What is all this for?
Oh, this is just for Schnitz and Giggles.
Schnitz and Giggles!
Welcome to Schnitz and Giggles, the podcast that stumbles upon the humor of cross-cultural confusion and life in Vienna, Austria, through the experiences of an Auslander and his Wiener.
Brought to you by the Edelweiss Crackers.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for the purpose of entertainment only and is not a replacement for therapy.
Let's just do that. Let's just say, hey, we just got back from a field trip today.
Yeah.
Are we recording?
I just hit record. Yes.
All right.
Hey, we just got back from a field trip.
Welcome to another episode of Schnitz and Giggles podcast. I'm Michael.
I'm Lucas.
And as we may or may not have mentioned already, depending on where we start the recording, we just got back from a field trip to a museum.
From the museum back to the studio right here.
It's a full day.
It's a
full day of work for the old Edelweiss crackers.
But a kebab saved us from
Yeah.
just breaking down.
Yeah, the one thing that I think there's probably more of than museums is kebab stands.
I guess
Which-
you're-
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
a little bit of research we were doing right now.
I think I didn't record that part. You just found the best, strangest number they put on the website.
Yeah, we were doing a little bit of quick research here to figure out how many museums are in Vienna, because we do know that there's quite a few. And it seems like lists vary, because there's a lot of smaller museums, maybe some berserk museums as well.
Berserk.
Yeah,
They all go berserk.
they're going crazy. Not berserk.
Oh,
Berserk?
Bezirk.
Bezirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Berserker museums.
Berserker
Those are
museums.
in a different part of the European continent. The Bezirk. So those are smaller ones that maybe aren't counted, but who knows?
Mm.
But our first discovery was maybe that there was over 100,
Right.
which
My first discovery was there was a 200.
yeah. So
And the website said there's around 200.
it could be around 200. It could be 100 plus, which could be anywhere from 100 to 199, as we know how numbers work. But I just found a website that says there is 104 plus. So it seems like an oddly specific number to add a plus to.
Yeah, what can I imagine when someone tells me it's 104 plus?
I mean, 105.
Whoa, never thought of that.
That tells me that there's probably 104 museums, but the author of this was like, oh, maybe there could be another one or two. I don't want to be called out for my...
Exactly. I think the website that I found, it says there's around 200 museums. So, well, there's 104. Let's round up the numbers.
Yeah, they're like, that's close enough.
What's the
200.
closest? What's the next after 104? Well, it's 200.
In any case, there's a lot of museums in Vienna.
I have noticed.
In your life, Lucas, have you seen many of these 200 or so museums?
I don't know an exact number, I have to say.
Is it 23 plus?
I guess it might be 23 plus. It might be 27 minus. You never say that, right?
No, you wouldn't ever.
You never say that.
No, people
It's a
don't
phrase.
say that,
You never say
like-
it's plus.
I've gone to less than 27 museums.
You can say I went to more than 10 museums. Or
Sure.
you can say I went to I went to 10 plus museums.
Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting way of how things work one way or the other. It's the same with the word it's. Because sometimes you can say it's, but sometimes you have to say it is.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Sure. I mean, I guess
I guess you're the English speaker.
isn't really where my brain was going right now. But so, how many museums do you think you've gone to?
Yeah, I'm not done yet, man.
Yeah, because you haven't answered the question.
Well, I'm just in the middle of some epiphany that
Okay,
I had
All
5
right,
years
yes.
ago.
Okay, sometimes you say it's, and sometimes you say it is.
Because you have to say it is what it is. You couldn't say it's what
It's what's it's.
You couldn't say that.
It's what's.
It's what's. That would be the shortest. Instead of
Could
saying
be a
it
new
is,
thing.
it is
Could
what
be
it is.
starting a new. It's what's.
Yes, that's
Well, it's
crazy.
No, you wouldn't really say it's what's.
it's what's.
I guess you could.
But would people know what you mean? That you actually mean it is what it is?
No, but you know,
But
it's
then-
what it is.
It is what it
If
it
people
is
don't
what-
understand what I'm saying, it's what's. Okay, good.
Did you know that before is was?
Are you purposely not wanting to answer the question of how many museums
Yeah, I'm
you've
just
gone
buying
to?
some time here. I'm just stalling here because
I don't know what you're stalling for.
I don't know. It's Joseph Stalin, maybe. So This is all scripted, by the way.
Yes,
We're reading off a stack of papers here.
We sure are. So does that stack of papers tell you how many museums you've gone to, or are you gonna?
I'm just gonna avoid the question. No, I think I've been. It's certainly more than 20 museums. I would
So 30 minus.
30 minus.
Yeah.
Could also be. Well, it's definitely 100 minus.
Okay.
Could be 30 plus even. I don't know. I didn't keep count. A lot of museums I've been to, I was forced to go to since I grew up here.
That's probably true for most museum visitors, like on the whole.
Whenever you go to a museum, like half the people there are forced to be there.
Oh, probably more than half.
More than half, yeah.
You think a family of 4,
Only,
2 of them actually want to go to the museum? It's probably just
So
the
that's-
one person's like, we're going.
so that's more than half, no?
The dad.
Two out of 4.
Well, that's what I'm saying. More than 2 of them.
So it's 2 plus.
So it's more than half, is what I'm saying. Well, more than half.
3 minus.
75% of the people probably.
Are forced. You mean?
There's probably 3 of the 4 out of a family that do not want to go to the museum.
But I thought you said 2 want to be there and 2 don't want to be here.
No, I said it's unlikely that even 2 out of a family of 4.
I missed the unlikely part.
Okay, well, I may or may not have said it.
Yeah.
It's what's.
It's what? Okay.
Okay, so you were forced to go to museums?
Yes.
As every young Austrian probably shares the experience.
Yes, and then we become proud of that because we are so rich in museum experiences that
That's right.
we seem to know everything. That
Well, today we perpetuated that action of forcing people to go to museums.
Yeah, I did. I just passed on the baton to the next generation. So
right.
you go to the museum with me, or else. Yeah, so we just been there with a bunch of students. They did great. They had some assignments, and in the meantime, we were able to look at the museum.
Yeah, had a nice morning walking around, learning about the city of Vienna.
Yeah.
For any of you who might be visiting.
Did we mention which museum we actually went to?
I mean, I just did.
Did you? I missed a lot.
Museum of Vienna.
Okay. Well,
so this is specifically not a
no. Okay, because it's
so
the
it's
actually the Vienna Museum,
not a museum
of Vienna.
Of Vienna,
because there's so many other
because there would
of
yeah,
Vienna,
all the museums in Vienna are of Vienna.
That's what I'm just trying to specify here, because we need some order here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we went to the museum that speaks and documents and even screams at times.
It screams
the history of the city of Vienna.
That's a very much better definition of the museum we just came back from.
Which, for those of you who may be visiting, as I was going to start to say, is that it's a free museum for the most part. There's a couple of special exhibits that you might have to pay for if you want to see it, but if you want to upgrade. Yeah, if you want to upgrade, you know, like any good capitalist system, we're going to upsell you. So, you know, give you a little bit of something for free, get you a taste, and then you just want to know more. You want to know more about Vienna, so you buy the extra tour package. Although I must say, for being a free museum, excellently well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, our tax dollars at work.
No, you're welcome because you are the expat in my city here.
Yeah, but
I just want to welcome you here.
Well,
man.
thank you. I appreciate it. You're so welcoming.
Yeah.
True Viennese fashion.
I try to be as welcoming as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think this is only embarrassingly so. This is only the 3rd museum that I think I've actually walked through here in Vienna. So I should probably.
So you've been to 4 minus museums.
I've been to 4 minus museums, and every single one of them. I mean, I wasn't forced to because I made the choice to do it, but I was doing the forcing.
You were doing the forcing.
They were all field trip related.
So you never went just for pleasure. It was all either part of your job or you were chaperoning now or
doing my volunteering duties. Yeah, I don't think I've ever just on a day decided that, hey, we're going to go to a museum. Not because I don't like to do that. I think probably just don't want to pay 40 euros to get into a museum. Not that they're all that expensive.
They're not that expensive. But sometimes, I mean, I know what you're saying. Sometimes when I thought, hey, maybe a museum would be a good thing to go to, I look at the prices and I'm thinking,
yeah, do I want to spend it?
Even
it takes a little bit of thought and planning.
14 euros, 18 euros.
Yeah.
Still.
To just walk around for a little bit.
Just walk around a couple old rooms.
I suppose that living in the city, it would certainly be a nice way to spend a couple hours walking around. But I think in some ways, this entire city is kind of like a museum. In some ways, there's enough history that is preserved and kind of just there. And you can walk into so many of the churches are now essentially kind of museums to how people worshipped. True. And so you can just kind of walk into those for the most part. No. 5 minus.
Oh,
I think
5 minus.
I've been to 4. I guess it depends on how you classify a museum.
I think it's the same thing as in there are around 200 museums or 104 museums or 400 plus museums.
Yeah, like
how do you define a museum?
Would the crypt underneath the
St. Stephen's?
Stephen's Dome, would that be considered a museum, or is it just a tour of a thing?
It's a good question because is the whole church a museum? I mean, it's still a running church. How do you say? Like it's up and running.
Yeah, still active.
It's an active church. So
used for church things.
Although the crypt, as far as I know, is not used anymore, so you cannot be buried.
Well, it's still used, but not with.
It's occupied.
Yeah, it's no new residents.
Former residents. So in a way, what's the definition of museum? Is a museum something you just have an exhibition of something that is over? It's just a thing from the past. Because then the crypt would be a museum by that definition.
Sure. Well, and the act of a museum of like preserving something that's already happened and giving some insight as to the reasons why certain things happened. It seemed like that was happening a bit at the Vienna Museum today, is that there is some like editorial comments. It seems like, this was a bad point in history or something, and it doesn't just state the facts. So it is trying to, pass on some sort of perspective for history. So in that case, I mean, there's podcasts could be museums.
Because any podcast you listen to is from the past. You mean?
Well, if they are history podcasts, I mean, that's kind of a way of documenting history. And
it's an audio museum.
Yeah.
What a nice thought.
Yeah, maybe we could start doing that.
Just an audio
do a whole series of us walking through museums and talking to people.
talking to paintings.
Hello, painting.
Hello, painting.
You're quite lifelike. Yeah, so what is a museum?
What is a museum?
Curious question. Well, dear listener, you can share your perspective on what a museum is. Out of the 30 minus 20 plus museums that you've gone to, what would you say is your favorite museum in Vienna?
I think the most fascinating for kids, especially when you were a kid, and even for adults, is the Technisches Museum, Museum of Technology, and has some cool stuff in there. And some of it is very interactive, since anything that technical, some way or the other, is moving, has moving parts. You can do a lot of these things there that you can just try, experiment around, and that's pretty cool. And
does one of the ball with the electrical current that
it also
comes out to your hand or whatever.
Yeah, it has one of the oldest cars ever built in there, for example, because there was a guy, his last name was Marcus, and he basically built a car around the same time as the Germans did. So they've been debating who was actually the first to build the car, and as research now says, it's probably the Germans were 1 year ahead or so.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd all be driving Marcus mobiles around.
Exactly. Yeah. So instead of Mercedes-Benz, we'd be driving Marcus mobiles.
Ooh, you got a sick new Marcus.
Yeah. So much horsepower. Yes. Yeah. Well, the things could have been, but you cannot ride that car. Unfortunately, it does have the largest steam locomotive ever built in Austrian built. And it was so heavy that they had to reinforce the floor of the museum. Otherwise, you would have probably dropped to the floor. And so it's huge. It's really impressive when you stand next to it. It's really something.
Well, the next field trip you organize that you asked me to chaperone,
I think that's a good one
to be there. Yeah.
So, but I'd say it's probably the most impressive one, as in it's most interactive. It's there's lots of moving parts. And the second favorite one is the one that the natural history, the Naturhistorisches Museum, that's a mouthful, which the favorite room of every kid is the dinosaur room.
Of course.
I'd say those were the two ones when I was a kid, my two favorite ones when I was a kid. I wonder these days, lately I've been impressed with the Belvedere Museum a lot. So that's just an art gallery.
Because you're fancy now.
Because now I'm fancy, yes.
Yeah.
Some of the most expensive paintings that Austria owns are found in the Belvedere.
That is the crazy thing about some of these museums, is that they're located in places where the outside is just as impressive at certain times of year to walk around.
Yeah.
And so you often find yourself around these museums and kind of in the vicinity, but it's nice enough to stay outside. That's the kind of the cool thing about the city, is that as you walk through the various courtyards and streets, you're looking at things that are impressive enough. And that, I visited Belvedere a number of times, but it's always only in the gardens and outside. And
you never went inside so far?
Never gone inside. That's not one of the 5 minus.
No. How unfortunate. It's pays off. I mean,
you need to start going inside a little bit more.
But what you're saying is very accurate. You can take a look at the nice castle. You can walk around those gardens. Beautiful, especially in the spring and summertime. There's lots of flowers. And then you can also go inside if you pay a little extra and look at famous art. Yeah, the Belvedere is always something to enjoy. You know what I also enjoyed a lot was the Schönbrunn, the castle. That's actually also a museum.
Okay, so all right.
Oh, the numbers are rising.
5+ now.
5+ now.
Yeah, we're at 5+.
So what were the ones that you were thinking of yourself?
So I've gone to the Rome Museum.
But we're in Vienna.
You're in Vienna, yeah.
But
Roman
why is a
Museum.
Rome Museum?
The Roman Museum, sorry. Roman Museum.
Römer.
Römer.
If you hear a Römer about...
We'll edit that out. And I've gone to the Military History Museum, and I have gone to the Vienna Museum, and the crypt, if we're counting the crypt.
And Schönbrunn.
And Schönbrunn. And I'm sure as we talk, I'll remember another museum that I went to. But for right now, I'm counting 5.
Yeah, that's cool. What I was going to say about the Schönbrunn Palace. Great.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
What do you like about Schönbrunn so much?
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you're asking. That they take you through all those rooms that the emperor family has lived in, and just thinking that it was just a regular bedroom.
Yeah.
The Kaiser was sleeping there, and now he's just walking through. It's some kind of strange experience.
Yeah, to consider that like normal life was happening there, and now it's just a bunch of tourists walking through and taking pictures. 75% of whom don't want to be in that.
They're forced to be there.
Which probably about 75% of the residents of the palace probably didn't want to be there either.
Or the people working there
Exactly.
back in the day. Like, not a day in the palace. I hope I won't lose my head.
Well, and thanks for asking. I think the favorite museum that I've gone to,
out of those
is the Military Museum, because I think that being a history teacher, that was one that I went to a couple times for a field trip, and just some of the pretty important events that have happened over the years that are connected to Vienna and Austria. The car that Franz Ferdinand was in when he got assassinated, that is just sitting there. Yeah. With the bullet holes. And it is
unchanged.
Yeah, that it's been preserved for so long, and it's just sitting there in the middle of a hall, and you just walk by, and it is kind of that surreal feeling, right? Of like a person died, 2 people died in this car.
Yeah, that's strange enough at least, but
which started a war where millions of people died,
and that changed
the whole world. It changed the political structure of Europe, and the modern nation state really emerged, and that now we're just walking by it.
Yeah, that car is just...
And a lot of people walking by not even fully realizing,
what a nice old car.
Yeah, wow, that's an old car. Yeah, when you get into those museums that have... because paintings are obviously really cool to look at, especially when they're documenting something or they're known as like specific works that should be looked at, but they're still just a representation of what somebody was seeing when like the actual thing is there. I think those types of museums are very interesting.
Yeah, when you see that it's the original one.
Yeah, and some of the suits of armor that were worn, in the 1600s, and they're now displayed for us to see and get a feel that people did actually wear these things is kind of an interesting thing to consider. All right. Are there any museums that are kind of on your wish list?
My wish list.
That you hope to get to?
Yes. So you'd mentioned that every Bezirk, every district has a museum.
Yeah.
That's also cool. Since the Vienna Museum we just been at couldn't take all those things that have been happening in Vienna, and there are some cool objects to look at. So I've been to 1 or 2 or 3 of those in the past years, and then they talk more about, who lived in this district and what's special, what special events took place here and there, and there might be some unique object as well that made history, at least local history, Vienna history. So I haven't been to all museums that are out there. Maybe that's something that's a kind of a life goal I should achieve as a Viennese. Hit all the
district museums.
All the district museums.
Seems like that's a achievable goal.
It's achievable, yes. Yeah. So if you do 2 per month, you can do it within a year.
It's true.
You can do 12 plus in half a year.
It's true.
So, but other than that, the problem is there are so many museums in Vienna, and it doesn't matter if it's 104 or close to 200.
Yeah.
The number itself seems that has the label museum on it. And it's back again to the question, what really makes a museum a museum? The amount of a museum seems just so...
Yeah, completely impossible to think that you could actually go to all those.
Yeah. And again, what I was just referring to is, when is a museum, since some museums just are an apartment, and it says, Beethoven lived here.
I've been to the Sigmund Freud Museum.
Oh, Sigmund Freud, yeah.
So 5+.
Sigmund Freud.
Perfect.
5++ now.
Man, if we keep doing this podcast,
so the numbers are rising.
We keep talking. I'm going to be at 10.
We won't finish this episode before we get to 10. So. But what's really funny, for example, is one of the Beethoven museums, I think there's more than one, is just one where it's just his apartment and has a piano in there and there's some old furniture.
That's it.
And the last time I think I was there was maybe 15 years ago or maybe longer.
Is that the one we were outside of when we were eating Schnitzel together?
Eating Schnitzel, yeah, that's the place.
Yeah, we could have gone in.
We could have gone in.
Probably
Especially because I was going to say, just to see that apartment back in the day, the price was €1.
Wow.
So you pay €1 to get it. Maybe it's €2 by now. I haven't checked the prices just recently, but it's great to see. Well, you walk in on the same floor that Beethoven walked.
That's kind of a crazy feel.
Yeah, and Mozart and others. There's a couple of buildings in the inner city that state Mozart lived here. There's one house that has, it says on the outside, in this building, Mozart, this is where he held his first public performance. It's not a museum, but so many buildings could be museums for that matter.
Right, there's enough buildings throughout the city that have those types of plaques or the little thing above it with the flag that says either somebody was born here,
it's some
somebody
monument
died here, somebody lived here. So in that way, the whole city ends up being a museum because you end up seeing all these places that were used for life, whatever.
Yeah, good point. There could be 200, 300 plus.
There could, if we count all those things.
If you count all those things.
Be at the top of those lists.
Do you want to play a game that I just came up with?
Oh boy, I'm sure this is.
It's a game where everyone wins once again.
All right.
Because we were just preparing before this recording, looking at museums. I told you there's a list of museums, alphabetical order.
Yeah, okay.
And I was just thinking, if you just tell me, you tell me one letter.
A letter.
And I'll tell you what kind of museums there are in Vienna.
Okay.
There's only, should I tell you which letters do not exist, or should we make it a little more exciting?
I mean, I kind of figured that there would be a museum for every letter.
Well, there's not.
Okay.
Unfortunately. There are 4 letters missing from the alphabet. Which 4 are those?
Is this the game?
This is the qualification for the game.
Well, since you already told me, I feel like it'd be kind of it's whether I can remember.
Yeah, did I tell you all 4?
Well, Q. That was my first.
Q is one that there's no museum starting with a Q in Vienna.
No museum starting with a Q. I believe you also said X and Z.
I said X, but not Z.
Oh, why?
Why?
Because there's no Z? Or because there is a Z? That's why you said...
No, it's letter Y.
Why?
X and Y.
X and Y.
X and Y do not exist.
And I.
Yes. So I did tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remembered.
Okay, your brain is still functioning really well.
For now. I mean,
for now,
at least. Like 20 minutes ago.
After this episode, it
wasn't that long.
So short-term memory.
Okay, so how about the letter M?
M. Let's see. There is a Männergesangsverein Museum.
Okay.
So that's a long word, and I didn't know that. Männergesangsverein Museum. It's also, I'm just making sense of the list here. I think that's what it talks about. It talks about Geschichte des Chores.
So like, it's a men's choir museum?
There seems to be, so Verein is the word for some association or some club. Yeah. In this case, a choir. And Männergesang is men's singing. Yeah. It's the Men's Singing Club Museum.
Sweet. Where is this located?
Let me just check if I can see. So it was founded in 1843. I mean, the whole choir was founded, and it's still active.
That's obvious. Is that what all the people who are in the Vienna Boys Choir graduate into?
You might think.
Maybe not.
Maybe
I guess
not.
We'd have to go to the museum to find out. Where is this located?
Okay. It's in the Bösendorfer Straße in the first district. That's the one that's right next to the Viennese Philharmonic, the concert hall. If you ever watched the New Year's concert where the orchestra is playing.
Yeah. On PBS for all you listeners in the United States.
Nice. I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the places just next door.
Okay. All right. So if you're interested in men's choirs, then you can go to that. All right. How about the letter J?
There's also Mozart House, of course, just for the letter M. Yes. So letter J. Yeah. Johann Strauss Wohnung.
Okay. Go check out his apartment. That'd be fun.
That's where the Donauwalzer was written, in that apartment.
Oh.
So the Blue Danube Waltz.
So do they have it being played
all the time there?
All the time.
And the neighbors go crazy that still lived in this building.
That would be wild.
I have no idea where this one is. Well, it's in the Praterstraße, which makes sense that he would live close to the Prater, since this would be one of those areas where lots of entertainments took place.
Sure.
And he was an entertainer. There's also the Jüdisches Museum, the Jewish Museum, and one Josephinum, a museum for the history of medicine in Vienna.
Well, then how about L?
L. LLL. There's the Leopold Museum. That's part of the Museumsquartier.
Okay. Yeah.
It has the largest Schiele collection in the world. So Egon Schiele being around the same time as Gustav Klimt. So any art around 1900, one of the largest collections. And for that particular artist, it's the largest in the whole world.
I guess that's the cool thing about the way Vienna is set up currently is that there's a whole lot of museums within walking distance of each other. I mean, you got the Museumsquartier that has 12 museums, I think it is.
Might be even 12 plus, I don't know.
It could be 12 plus, but I think it is 12.
It's 15 minus.
I think I've looked at the little list there with the little model that's in front of the entryway.
And there's a special kids museum as well, which is very recommendable for even smaller kids, so they can do all that fun stuff over there. So the Museumsquartier is one of the big places, and then there's the other big museums around.
I think the museum I'd kind of like to go to is the Weltmuseum. Mm-hmm. If I understand correctly, that's like they've got a lot of maps and things like that. Is that right? Like a lot of globes. It's kind of connected to the
Hofburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so in the Hofburg, in the palace, there are at least 3 museums, maybe 4. Let's say 3 plus. To be on the safe side.
Killing that bit.
This will never grow old. What I was going to say is, so yeah, there are a couple of museums in there, and the Weltmuseum being one of them. I've never been to that one. That's one of the ones on my list to go to. Have you been there?
That's why I just said I'd like to go.
Oh, I thought like, am I?
Are you even listening to me when I talk?
No. Well, you say I'd like to go there, and then you talk about it, and you know everything that's there about everything that's there.
I don't know everything. Well, I mean, I know what the museum is. It's all I was describing. That's why I'd like to go there, because of all the maps.
Okay, cool.
I like maps.
What I was talking about concerning this museum was, I think it also gives you an insight on how the Austrian or European perspective on the world used to be. We briefly talked about exotic people,
right?
The way they would categorize them or
describe them.
Even often it would come down to some racist things as well, the way things were back then. So that would give you some insight on how did we view the rest of the world back then. Yeah. Maybe one day there'll be a museum about us, how we view the world today.
I'm sure. I mean, already in the Wien Museum today was already the kind of the ending part of it is talking a little bit about how Vienna is today and the expansion of the city and things like that.
So, right. It ends in the present times.
That's right.
And city development and some outlook into the future.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like we have a good list of museums that you and I can go visit. The only thing that could potentially be more boring than going to a museum is listening to two guys talk about museums.
Yes.
So sorry about it, everybody. But hopefully there's enough interest in some of these things, because there are some really cool recordings of history and the way life was to see in these museums. So get out there and check out some museums.
There's a Globe Museum as well.
I think that's the one I want to see.
Maybe that's the one that you were referring to in the National Library. Because the Weltmuseum and the Globe Museum are two different things, but they're all in the Hofburg.
They're two different things?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Globe Museum is the only public museum in the world that just displays globes. And it's part of the National Library. And the Weltmuseum is just around the corner, basically. And I think that's the one I've been talking about. More different cultures, different perspectives on culture.
All right. So maybe I was getting those two conflated.
There's also a money museum and some other things I just found out.
Wow. So many fun museums to go to.
Yes.
With 104 plus, 200 minus, or maybe 200 plus. Who knows?
200 plus. By now, that list, we should go back and count every single museum here.
That'd be quite the project.
Every kind of project, yeah.
To just walk the city streets and find each museum. Yeah. I don't know if that's something we're going to do.
There's the Burial Museum. There's so many museums.
So many museums. All right. Well, I guess we'll talk about some of those in the future. But for now, guten bye-bye.
It's what's.
Guten bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this Schnitzel and Giggles episode.
Remember to follow and subscribe if you want more content like this from the Edelweisscrackers.
Don't be shy about commenting or leaving feedback. Until next time.
So long.
Farewell.
Good Wiedersehen.
Bye-bye.